But first, new questions are surfacing about the debris removal deadline in Tuscaloosa. The deadline to apply for federal assistance is next Monday, September 26th.
And now some people are wondering if debris will still be removed once that deadline passes, or if there won't be any more help available. Now, according to the Tuscaloosa County Probate Judge Hardy McCollum, the 26th deadline is for citizens to get as much debris moved as they can by the Corps of Engineers. The Corps is under a contract with FEMA, and FEMA is trying to wind down their contract. McCollum told us the volume of debris to be removed is decreasing, but the expense of having the contract with the Corps of Engineers is not. McCollum says even after the deadline passes, debris removal will still continue, but it won't be as frequent.
Well, obviously, we want to get it removed as quickly as possible, and the Corps is dedicated every day with a number of vehicles to remove debris. After this deadline, we will still remove debris, but it won't happen 3 and 4 times a day with a lot of vehicles riding up and down the right-of-ways.
You can pick up an application for assistance at City Hall or call 311 for more information. Again, the deadline next Monday, September 26th.
And as part of the storm recovery, there's a new push to incorporate the Holt community. Tuscaloosa County Commissioner Gary Youngblood tells us a group of Holt residents met with Coling's mayor to see what's involved in incorporating a town. Youngblood says since the April tornado, the idea of incorporating Holt has been brought to the table, but this is not the first time. Back during the early 1990s, the community voted on that issue, but it did not pass. And Commissioner Youngblood says the final decision ultimately comes with the voters at the polls.
The thing about it, the group that we're meeting with, I think is favorable, but when it comes to a vote, you know, if you got 50 people at a meeting, there's 5,000, well, before we got blown away, there were 5,000 people that would be going to the poll to vote.
And Commissioner Youngblood says there'll be a storm recovery meeting for the community of Holt next week. It's set for Tuesday, September 27th at the Holt High School auditorium. That meeting starts at 6:30.
This week marks a sad anniversary for the Tuscaloosa County community of Brookwood. It's been 10 years since 13 men were killed in a Brookwood mine explosion. Tonight we look back at how the community responded to the tragic news in those first days after the explosion. This report from September 25th, 2001. Instead, we will take a look at how the community is doing, the community of Brookwood. Okay, I'm told we now do have that story. So now that report from September 25th, 2001, as we give you special coverage of the 10-year anniversary of the mining tragedy in Brookwood.
Here at Brookwood High School, the Crimson Star Band is practicing patriotic pieces for Friday night's football game in hopes of dazzling the crowd. But just 2 days after a deadly fire at Jim Walter Mine number 5, the tragedy is taking center stage.
Because I know that a lot of my friends have parents that work in the mines, like my friend Vanessa Johnson. Her dad was killed down there. And there's a lot of people that are still trapped down there.
2 students, one in junior high and one in senior high, lost their fathers in the accident. Others have parents who are injured. And for junior Matt McCraw and his classmates, hearts are heavy.
There's really not much that we can do, you know, or not much to talk about. We don't know much about it. There's not much that we can take into our own hands to do anything for it.
The mine is less than 2 miles away from the home of the Panthers, and Principal Wayne McBride says the entire school is in shock.
And every kid here whose parents are connected with the mines realize that that could have been their parent. So, you know, everybody's grateful, but at the same time hurtful.
McBride and his staff are working hard just to hold students together.
They're having a hard time understanding, you know, they're asking questions, why us? Why does it have to be us so often?
Again, we've been looking back at the Brookwood mining tragedy. That report from September 25th, 2001.
And now, continuing our coverage of the Brookwood mining tragedy, WVUA's Matt McCoy shows us how this accident changed the Brookwood community over the past decade.
The community's grown a lot since the explosion, and there's the few survivors that are around, they're still in Brookwood, the majority of them, and we've coped with it pretty good.
Signs are everywhere, from a parkway dedicated to the memory of the miners to a small reminder for anyone who drives into the city limits. Residents say no one has forgotten what happened nearly 10 years ago.
I'm proud to know the people that went back in to save their brothers. I hate that we lost them because there were some very good people in there that we lost.
There's always that sense of remembrance. Nobody here ever forgets. Everywhere you go around here, you know, when it gets closer to the anniversary, there's markers out. People come together and they're ready for, you know, coming together and remembering everyone.
In the 10 years following what was then the worst mining disaster in U.S. history, residents of Brookwood say one thing that came from the ashes was a sense of community, a feeling that's still around today.
Everybody seems to stay together a lot closer now than they used to. It took a big toll on a lot of families here.
It took a few years for everything to come back together. I know there was a lot of hurt. I lost a couple of friends in that explosion. But like I said, we've all come back together. It's a stronger community now.
You can visit the memorial dedicated to the 13 miners that lost their lives at the West Brookwood Church on Lock 17 Road. Reporting in Brookwood, Matt McCoy, WVUA News.
And the city of Tuscaloosa is hosting a memorial on Friday in honor of the 13 people who died and their families. The organizers say they anticipate a large turnout marking the 10th anniversary. The program will be held at the Tuscaloosa Amphitheater. Former University of Alabama football player Saran Stacy will be the MC and guest speaker. The gates open at 4 o'clock. The service starts at 5 o'clock. Watch WVUA News all this week for our special coverage as we remember the lives lost in mine number 5 1 decade ago.